Hello, welcome to our Dream to Rise podcast. And this is Cynthia Concordia, your host. And I would like to introduce you to our another guest, another special guest we have. He is the founder of Life in Process, LLC, and the Calm and Confident Leader. He's an authentic, action oriented coach, consultant who combines his therapeutic training with 27 years in strategic point leadership in multi-million dollar organizations. And he is known as a team builder and people developer. Jason has a knack for discovering and maximizing unrealized potential in individuals and organizations. Wow. He's certified in StratOp. I don't know if that's correct. StratOp, Paterson
Yes, yeah,
Center.
right. Yeah.
And has a master's degree in counseling in along with authoring a number of ebooks, tools, and paperbacks. He grew up outside of New York City, lived in the Twin Cities, Minnesota for 16 years, and currently lives in Northport, Alabama. Without further ado, let's welcome Jason Stonehouse. Hello, Jason.
Hi,
Welcome.
Cynthia. It is really great to be here. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your show and see what we can do to add some value today.
Of course, of course. I'm sure all our listeners will be are actually looking forward to what value you'll be sharing with us,
Sure.
especially your story,
Yeah.
life story. Most of us, we always look forward to hearing the stories, especially for those who's from that dark side
Yeah.
or in their dark bubble, and how they were able to overcome, rise up again, and evolve. And now look what you have accomplished. I'm so proud of you. Okay, so let us start. Again, it's an honor to have you, Jason. Huh?
Thanks.
So can you share with us, well, if it's okay, huh? If you could share with us your story
Sure.
and what brought you to where you are right now.
Sure. Yeah, I have been in leadership roles for really my whole life, really since middle school. And I dealt with anxiety, really crippling anxiety from pretty much those teen years, early 20s. Now, back then, I wouldn't have called it anxiety. I didn't know even the word anxiety. I would just have called it stress because
Mhm.
it was just plaguing me. I had all kinds of digestive issues and physical issues that just related to that stress. And I just thought, oh, I'm just a very highly driven person and was just dealing with stress all the time. But then about 10 years ago, it became much, much more extreme. And I began feeling just the weight of the world on my shoulders. I began having panic attacks. Some panic attacks even happened while I was up in front speaking to over 1,000 people. And it was just really, really exhausting. And I just thought, man, if this is what it means to be a leader, if I have to deal with this anxiety and stress and overwhelm all the time, I remember turning to my wife and saying, if this is going to be the rest of my life, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. It just didn't seem like something that I wanted to continue to pursue. And so I loved being a leader. I enjoyed being able to influence other people. I enjoyed being able to see other organizations really embrace their potential, individuals embrace their potential. But man, the dark side of it, the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm was just crippling me. And so really what happened at that point was really began to get on a journey to understand it and to really get on the other side of it. As you mentioned, I have my master's degree in counseling. And so I had a background of some of that therapeutic, the what does healthy look like? How do I begin to move in those directions? But then I went to therapy for myself, and I was in therapy for almost 8 of those 10 years, really trying to get to the bottom of it, really trying to understand it. I read a ton of books on the subject, did a lot of research, and then essentially developed a program or developed really a pathway forward. You know, we talk about a lot of times, as I've watched some of your other podcasts, you talk about this concept of manifest, which is really the idea of moving from an idea or a concept to reality. And I was thinking about that for myself and saying, my idea was, I need to be free of this. I need to break out of this. This is just, it's just destroying my life. And that was really the idea. But then manifesting to see that become reality, that was a whole big journey. And that's, really what I began with, that research and study and all of those things, the therapy, going to myself, going for myself, and then just really beginning to get on the other side of it. So I figured out a pathway.
May I ask,
So yeah.
what was this really the main reason of your, or the root cause of your anxiety? Was it because of the work?
There's probably a number of different things that come out, and a lot of times in my work with clients, there's usually not just one root, but many different roots that are manifesting or exhibiting themselves in that anxiety and stress. I think anxiety and stress is almost like a warning light, or a smoke alarm going
Yeah,
off in your house, and it tells you, hey, there's a fire somewhere, you need to pay attention to it. And I
yeah.
think what so many times we do with medication and other things is we just shut up the fire alarm, but
Uh-huh.
we don't really deal with the fire.
Yeah.
Our house is burning down and we're so worried about the alarm, which is the anxiety, without really getting to the root. But for me, to answer your question, for me, I think it came down to some fears, fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, fear that I wasn't enough or I wasn't good enough. I dealt my whole life with what I would call image management, really worried about how other people saw me, how others viewed me, those kinds of things. So a lot of that was at the root of this. And that fear of failure.
Mm.
I was leading an organization with, over 1,000 people in it. And I'm just like, there's a lot depending on me. There's a lot of people's jobs that are depending on me being able to do what I need to do. And so I really felt that weight, that you can't screw this up, Jason. Like you've got to nail this. This has got to be.
Mm.
And so I think those were some of the root or the core
Okay.
issues that I was
But
wrestling with. Yeah.
why was there a part of your life wherein you made a mistake and then someone was always, because I know, just like what you mentioned, oh, what will other people would say when
Yeah.
I fail, no? And
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why we have that fear within us,
Mhm. Yeah.
which was really because of the family members, the elders, the community, and so on.
Right.
So I'm sure that's one of the factors that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things for me was a lot of times I was given roles that were often reserved for older people. And I
Oh,
think like I always felt like I had to prove myself. I always felt like somebody was giving me a chance or giving me a shot, and I better not screw it up, kind of a thing. So I think that pressure was there too. I remember even being 15 years old and being asked to teach a class for these younger children, and it was like there was no other 15-year-olds that were doing that. Everybody else was in their 30s or 40s, and here I was 15 years old teaching a group of 40 kids. And so I just remember that has kind of always been in my journey and always been a part of my story. Is I've often been the young person who's now given that opportunity. Now I'm not so young anymore, but yeah, that definitely felt that stress.
but after teaching you as a 15-year-old teaching the other students, and you made it, you were able to do it. How did it
Yep.
feel afterwards?
Oh, it was amazing. But again, I think I always carried with me this inner, like, what if they really found out that I'm no good? Or what if they really knew the real me? And so that's what I mean is I put so much emphasis on projecting the right image and having things, demonstrated in a way that people would be like, oh, wow, what a superstar that guy is. Where
Oh.
inside I was dealing with such anxiety and stress and imposter syndrome and all of the things that we talk about, when it comes to leadership.
So how did it impact you in terms of your health and your relationship? I'm sure it impacted even your performance, no?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it, I just kind of kept stuffing it. And I think like I said earlier, that 10 years ago when things got really strong, I think finally it was starting to come out sideways. I think I had so much buried that stress and that anxiety and just kept, pushing through and making it happen. And about 10 years ago, I think I just broke and I just said, now I'm having panic attacks. My body is shutting down. I'm, feeling faint. I'm having all kinds of digestive issues and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that was really where I realized I need to do something about this. I can't mask it anymore. I can't just push it aside or stuff it down, and I can't just power through.
Mhm.
And I think part of what was at the root of it for me too was this sense of I can't control this. And I very much wanted to be in control. And here I can't even control my own body. I can't
Mhm.
even control my own thoughts. Like it just felt like everything was out of control and I couldn't get there.
And that was
And
the
so
time wherein you made the decision that I have to choose my
something,
life and then get someone to help me. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when the time you got the therapies or someone, a coach or
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't just one therapist, it was research, books, people talking, it was all these things coming together. And then I developed this path for myself to really get on the other side of it. And one of the things I said to myself back then was, if I ever get on the other side of this anxiety and stress, I need to go back and help other people.
ah, yeah.
Because if it and what I found out, Cynthia, was there are so many leaders, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs who are dealing with this, but they're dealing with it silently. Now, thankfully, because of the pandemic, I think it's made it a little more okay, a little more acceptable as leaders in high profile positions to be able to start saying, hey, I struggle. Hey, I have anxiety. Hey, I'm not all that I want to be. Hey, I don't feel like enough. I'm struggling with imposter syndrome, all of those kinds of things.
Because of the
So
pressure.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think it's just starting to be a little bit more acceptable to admit that, to be authentic and to say, hey, this is what I'm wrestling with. And so I started coaching leaders, CEOs, executives, stay-at-home moms. I just
Mhm.
started really trying these concepts and these principles with people all over the country, really trying to say, could I be of benefit here? And it was amazing. Right now, even years later, I still have 100% success rate for anybody who's kind of gone through and worked with me, that they're on the other side of their anxiety. They would tell you today, if you asked any one of them, I came in and started working with Jason at this point, I'm now at this point, and it's like, it's day and night. In fact, the people I hear from the most are their spouses. I get
Ah,
wives and husbands who call me and be like, what did you do to my wife? What did you do to my husband? They're just a totally different person.
oh,
But,
that's
I
nice.
realized, Cynthia, really quickly in there, that I was going to be really limited if I only did this one-on-one with, a number of people. And so that's why I wrote the book, The Calm and Confident Leader. And
Yes.
so
Could you
that's what I,
put it up so that we
yeah,
could all see?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
the calm and confident leader. Okay,
Yep.
that's nice.
Yeah. So really what I did was I took all of the things that I learned from my own journey, but also all the things that I tried and researched and practiced with CEOs and executives and
Mm.
really put it into the book. So I'm really essentially giving away all of my best stuff, my best tools, and all of those things to really help people, because my whole heart right now is, I know that there are so many leaders who are struggling with anxiety and stress and overwhelm, and I want to help them get on the other side of it. And so that was the manifestation, if you will, for me. That
Yeah,
was the biggest thing for me, was just being
that's the
able to
big
not
one.
only get there myself, but then
Yeah.
be able to package it in a book and say, hey, this is going to help you get free as well.
I'm glad that's congratulations for this wonderful book. And you
Oh,
know what?
thanks.
I'm glad that some of the other or these organizations are starting to be be aware of these mental health problems. Just
Hmm.
like at the World Bank, no? I
Yeah.
used to work for the World Bank and they have started the mental health week and so on to raise awareness that hey, not it's not only a group of people, but all of us are experiencing this, especially fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is
Mm-hmm.
the major blockage that we have. How we were raised, the the pressure of the community, the society, and the people around us, surrounding us, even our family
Yes.
members. And I'm glad that you're doing this, starting from the CEOs, because I agree, no, because it's how you treat your employees is dependent on how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of the time, how you, yeah, how you react to a situation is being mirrored by the other person. So
Right.
when you show anger and so on, what will they do? They will react the same way. So it's all about us and not expecting others to be nice to you if you're not nice to others, right?
Right. Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
I think so much of our role as leaders is we get judged on our external performance,
Uh-huh.
and very few people take time to say what's going on the inside. You know,
Mhm.
what are like you mentioned, what are those fears? What are those issues? Because if we don't deal with what's going on inside of us, then we are going to come out to other people, and it's going to ultimately affect our external performance, our return on investment, the way we treat our employees, the
Yeah.
way we treat our spouses, our kids, our even our animals. You know, I mean,
Yes.
all of those things are going to be affected by the lives that we live. And so if we don't take time to really look at what's going on inside of us, then and get the help that we need to get on the other side of it, we're going to hurt a lot of people in the process.
And it's not a weakness to seek for help, right?
Yes. Right.
And
Exactly.
that's being humble,
Mhm.
accepting our weaknesses. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and use your strength to learn more on how to overcome those weaknesses.
Mhm.
And and I'm glad that our leaders now are really taking into account all these things.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm glad that you have manifested what you want to manifest through this book. And it
Mhm.
seems that I'm sure a lot of people, this is not only for CEOs or not for
No.
leaders, but to all,
You
even
know, because
housewives, even probably children, young adults, right?
yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with John Maxwell. He's like a
Mhm.
major leadership guru. He's been around for years, decades and decades. And one of the things that he said is he said a leader is an influencer and leadership is influence. And so I look at how much influence every human being has. You have influence as a mom, as a dad. You have influence over your peers if you're a young adult. You have so if you look at leadership as influence, as John Maxwell defines it, then we're all leaders. We
Yes.
all have influence in somebody else's life. So that's why I called it the calm and confident leader. Originally, I went with the idea of anxiety-free leader. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's not just about getting out of a problem, it's getting into the person that we want to be. And that's really every one of us wants to be able to step into chaotic situations and be calm. Every single one of us wants to be a little more confident in who we are and how we show up in the world. And so the book really gets to the root and then brings you back out by giving you that calm and confidence that you're going to need as you work through the rest of your life.
So for sure, you're focusing on the thoughts. What
Yeah.
are what's in our thoughts, and they all usually become realities, no?
Yes. And I do talk a lot in the book about our emotions as well. And I talk a lot about how our emotions really they point to something deeper inside of us. And too many of us, we don't take ownership of our emotions. We say, you make me mad. Well, nobody can make you mad. That's a choice that you're making in response to their behavior. And
Yeah.
so what I talk about in the book is you will not be able to change something if it's somebody else's problem. If they're the one making you mad, well, then you're never going to be able to get over that anger. But if you
Mhm.
start realizing I'm responsible for my anger, now I actually can start using some tools and resources to actually get over that anger and move in a better direction. But
Mhm.
one of the reasons that we don't change as human beings is we blame everything, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions on somebody else.
Yes.
and we can't change somebody else. And so we just feel stuck because we can't bring the changes that we want to bring. And so the book really talks about how do you actually bring change, starting by owning your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own actions.
Exactly. And when you mention about how we respond to a situation, it boils down to responsibility. And
Yes.
responsibility is your ability to respond to a situation in a more matured way, no? That's why it's
Yes.
important really to have this effective communication. Because most of the time we just put everything within ourselves. Oh, how come we create three stories, right? We create
Yes.
stories whenever I share this, like what's this? A couple who are both watching the Super Bowl. And here comes the wife who would bring chips and Coke, soda on the table while the husband is watching Super Bowl. And later on, the wife, because the husband was so engrossed watching, the wife felt that, oh my, he doesn't love me anymore because he never touched the soda or the potato chips. Oh, he doesn't care about me anymore. It's our story that we create. And and then if you don't communicate that, then it builds up. And then later on, boom, it's like an explosion. And the husband is not even aware of what's happening.
Right. It's
See?
all that story, that
Yeah.
narrative that we create in our own minds about the situation, the people around us. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what I love about what you're doing is you talk about that responsibility piece. And I always tell people you're either going to react impulsively or you're going to respond intentionally.
yeah.
And so when I work with my clients, I'm all about how do you learn to respond intentionally rather than just reacting out of your impulses.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, like you said, that wife is going to say, I can't believe you, well, and it's just a reaction
Yes.
instead of really thinking it through and saying, what's really going on here? And
Yeah.
then can I prepare a response that will actually be helpful and not hurtful?
And that's why active listening is very important in a communication.
Yes. Yes.
Let's
Yeah. I love
see
that
where
that
they're
you talk
coming
about that.
from. Yeah, see
Yeah.
where they're coming
Yeah.
from. So,
Yeah.
what is now your uh any other success in terms of manifestation besides the book? How about your relationship? Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have 3 daughters,
Three
and
daughters.
so, and they're all, 2 of them are teenagers and one is just, turned 21. So
Oh,
yeah, it's very good. And then, yeah, and then, I actually just got married here, a couple
oh,
months ago,
oh,
remarried, and so
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So, very excited about, building a life and moving forward. So, yeah, I think I am definitely in the healthiest place I've ever been as a leader and as an individual. And now it's just a matter of trying to step forward and repair things from the past and be able to heal and also maybe be able to be helpful, in some of those relationships that didn't go the way you'd hope they go and all of those kinds of things. So
I'm so happy for you. See,
yeah.
you're now moving forward in this new chapter.
Yes.
I'm glad. So, what is your goal, or do you have any other goals in the next 12 months, or what
Yeah,
are the
so
plans?
I think for me, Cynthia, one of the challenges as I've started working with these different leaders and different individuals is I just you just don't know who's out there who you can help and how you can add value. And so the reason, that I agreed to come on your podcast and is because I really do want to increase that exposure and that influence because I really do want to help. I do want to add value. And so I think part of my goal for the next 12 months is to say, how can I get my book into as many hands as possible so that I can be helpful and so that I can help people on their journey. And so I think the challenge, as as you're starting out and you're trying to get people to even know you exist, so that you say, hey, I've got something for the problem that you're dealing with. that's just really a big challenge for me, because I don't have lots of money to be able to pour into advertising and things like that. And so when I think about the next 12 months, I'm like, how am I going to get this book out without going to a publisher, without spending thousands of dollars in advertising and all that kind of thing? So it's just a
Mhm.
challenge to figure out how to do that.
See, it's very, because I value human connection, collaboration.
Yeah.
And when I started doing this one, my coaching thing, James, who was my coach, who referred you to me, was the one who really pushed me to
Mm,
my limits. And now I have discovered my potential, and we are helping each other. And that's what
yeah.
I want here. When we
Yeah.
connect to someone, what can we do to support one another and help her or help him move forward?
Yeah.
And I'm always willing and very much willing. I don't know if I have enough followers, but what the purpose that keeps me moving is because we want to share our message to the world.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Yep. Yeah, and to me, I don't look at the number of followers ever. It's just about, because it's that one person, and that one person, they buy the book, they read it, and they say, "Wow, this has really been helpful," and then they refer it to another person,
Exactly.
and then to another person. And so I think that's really how this works. Is just
Uh-huh.
really, if you can add value to people, if you can make a difference in their lives, they're going to share that with others. Anything
Exactly.
that is impactful to us, we're going to share with other people. And so I love the fact that I get to collaborate with you and meet you and figure out what you're doing and say, how do I add value to that? And how can
Uh-huh.
I promote what you're doing, as well as the opportunity to share
Yeah.
what's on my heart,
Uh-huh.
related to the book.
I'm
So
more than I'm so happy that we got connected through
yeah,
James.
yeah. Yep, me too. Me too.
Uh-huh. So what do you think would be your major roadblock in achieving this goal?
Yeah, I think the roadblock is to say, what is the way to, well, I guess the roadblock is the lack of exposure and the lack of being able to connect with people. And so I guess the way to overcome that is to say, do I need to throw money at it? Is there other ways that I can do that? Is there, so I think that's what I'm really wrestling with right now, and talking with people like you and others and saying, okay, how do I navigate through this world when there's so much noise in our world today, that everybody's clamoring for, hey, pay attention to me, and it's just a matter of saying, what is it going to look like to say, hey, I really don't want to necessarily be some superstar, but I do want to help, I do want to add value. And so that's my art.
I think, yes, I agree with you, but I think it's not about the people out there, because I know a lot of people are competing, but
Yeah.
I believe each one of us has a special gift to offer. We
Hmm.
cannot compare ourselves to other people because they have their
Right.
own journey to take, and they
Right.
have but if we just push through, push our limits, like what you're doing, connecting with people,
Mhm.
then that will happen. The
It'll
only
take
thing
care of
that will
itself.
stop you is your doubts, your limiting
Right.
beliefs and
Right.
fears. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, that's awesome. That's a good word. That's a really good word. Yeah.
uh-huh. So
Yeah.
I know and I believe in you
Thank
because
you.
you have imagine you've been coaching leaders, CEOs, and so on from different organizations. And I know that you have a special gift to offer, a special light.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
Uh, so before we end, I would just like to ask, would you would you like to give a simple advice to our listeners? Just a simple one.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing I've been learning over the last year or so is the word curiosity. I
Mm,
think we are so quick to want to give answers instead of ask questions. So
mm,
I would say the simple advice I would give you is get a lot more curious. Get
mhm.
curious about yourself, what's going on inside of you. I wonder why I reacted that way. I wonder why I snapped at that person. Get curious about yourself, but then get curious about others. Everybody, as we're doing on this podcast, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Take the time to be curious, ask questions, take interest. So often I see people that they're trying to think about what they want to say while the other person's talking, instead of just really being present in the moment and
Yeah.
being curious about your wife, your husband, be curious about your kids, be curious about all of those things, all the people that are around you, the people you meet in the supermarket. Just get curious. And if you're curious about you and you're curious about others, I'm telling you, it has opened up a whole new world for me, just being curious about the people around you.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
I'm so happy that you've been a part of this podcast, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very, very grateful for your insights. And
So
I
as
wish
far as you can get the book at Amazon, just type in Calm Confident Leader, or you can go on my website and I will sign a copy if you order it directly from me, and that's calmconfidentleader.com, calmconfidentleader.com, and you'll be able to see the book and you can order it directly from me, and then I'll sign it, or you can get it on Amazon. It's available there as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. And
Yes, thank
again,
you, Cynthia.
congratulations. I'm claiming that's why I'm telling you congratulations for more
Yes, yes,
more
yes.
readers to come. Okay.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you so much to our listeners now, and to the next episode. So thank you. Bye-bye, Jason. Have a good
Bye-bye.
day. Bye-bye.